Welcome friends, this is Red Ice Creations Radio. I am your host Henrik Palmgren, and if you're curious to know, we are based in Sweden on the west coast. This is Internet Talk Radio, and we have a new show for you every Thursday and Sunday. Thanks to Duncan O'Finian for being with us last Thursday, talking about his experiences and memories as a former super soldier. If you're interested, you can always click your way to our radio archive on redicecreations.com and tune in to any of our past shows. But that you will have to do later, because I know you're here to listen to our very latest program with Michael Tsarin, and we do have a jam-packed show for you, so let's get right to it. Alright, here we are folks, right in the middle of February 2007, and a warm welcome back folks. We are grateful to spend some time again with our regular monthly guest, Michael Tsarin, who is on with us on the line. At this point, I hope you're familiar with the show and with Michael Tsarin, but if you are new, I highly recommend that you check out our archived shows with Michael, at least the last two shows, as we are going to continue on our theme of our two latest shows and talk about the children and the outsider today. And I know that Michael also wanted to bring up a few other points right away here, so I think we just should dive right into it, get into some current stuff and so forth here. So welcome back to the show, Michael. It's great to have you here.
Yes, Hendrik, thank you. It's nice to be back.
Awesome. You mentioned in the mail to me regarding the Paul Levy show. I guess you had taken the time to listen to it.
Yeah, I did. I was waiting for that show. It's been a long time that wanted to get him on the show, and for people just to hear from another point of view this kind of approach that I've been talking about leading up to 2012. About facing the shadow and the kind of catharses and the kind of realization as to why the leaders, the political leaders, how they come to power. People have, especially in America, got to be much more familiar with some of the psychodynamics involved in all of that, and also, some of the psychological implications, as opposed to just the political implications. Like I've been saying, we leave consciousness at the door, and even psychiatry, is leaving consciousness at the door, which is unbelievable, But this is then, hopefully we'll talk about a little bit later about the state of the children in the world, and how they're being understood right now, or lack of understanding. But yeah, Paul's approach, is very good in the sense that he emphasized the fact that the consensus trance, if people listen to the interview he did with you, they'll see that he was saying that, first of all, I think was very striking, is that the consensus trance is so strong and so powerful that most people don't even know they're in it.
Exactly, yeah.
This is a key part of what he was saying.
Yeah.
This sort of immersion into the collective where they don't even realize they're insane. In fact, so many people tell me, when they're at work, and then they maybe just, incidentally, or maybe they full-blown bring up conversations about politics or the way things are happening in the world, and most of their workmates look at them as if they're totally crazy.
Yeah.
Even if they're talking about fluoride, or the fluorescent lights, or any kind of, political situation, or Big Brother, or why do we have to sign endless documents? What's all of this invasion into our privacy? And And suddenly the whole work will just look at them as if, oh my God, you're really paranoid, you're really crazy. When in fact they are the ones who are crazy. These are the ones subscribing to such a demonic type of interference into their personal lives. But the incredible thing, that Paul is bringing out, and what psychoanalytically aware people know, is that you are ostracized. You are made into even if you're not an outsider. Even if in every other way you pretty much go along to get along. But should you even voice, problems with any area of what people accept, you are looked at as if you're kind of, off the wall, or sort of, paranoid or delusional in some way.
Yeah, exactly. The art of, self-observation, using, common logic and just being aware of stuff. That's seems to be enough these days to get in the position of being the paranoid, I guess.
That's right, and of course, Jung and others have always said that the observation, I don't know, is R.D. Laing or somebody like that said that, it's very, very difficult for people to observe themselves. This is a key problem, and it's also one of the, problems of the outsider.
Yeah.
that, Alan Watts, this is not the modern day Alan Watts, but the great Zen teacher Alan Watts. He said that nothing so eludes conscious inspection as consciousness itself. This is why the root of consciousness has been called the unconscious. It's just the semantics in one way, but we can understand it in another way. He's perfectly right. People do not want to spend the energy to look inside, and even those who begin to do that, there's a lot of people I deal with who are coming to my work, and then they see this, and then they do it. And they have these questions, then after they've done it, they observe aspects of the mind, and the first things that they notice is that it's very hard to observe it.
Yeah.
It takes a tremendous, and it's invisible. It's like an unstill mirror that is constantly moving.
Yeah.
Because, and then some very astute people get back to me on the blog, or, they've been doing this work for a while, and then they say that, look, it's almost like the ego is playing with itself, because is it really myself that's observing, or is the ego observing itself? And I had a conversation with one gentleman over this, and I'm sure Paul, Levy, and others have very similar sort of, conversations, and that is that, look, the ego is very, very clever. When it finally finds out, or suspects that you want to leave, that you want to end this fiasco, and you want to move back into selfhood, meaning you want to step out of these roles, and out of these Frankensteinian boots, and this sort of straitjackets of roles, sister, daughter, brother, lover, mother, uncle, nephew, workmate, all the roles. When you want to get out of those, the ego is very clever, and it sort of simulates a center. In other words, it sort of manufactures a center that is almost a mirror image or an analog of the self. Yeah, because as we said, the ego is an idea of yourself. The self is yourself.
Yeah.
But the ego is a chameleon. The ego is the magician in the tarot card. The number one. He's the juggler. And one of the interesting things that the ego can do is it just like a camouflage, like one of those butterflies or one of those chameleons, it can actually take on the form of the self. It can actually delude you fully. And it can create, since we know that the self is very strong and that the self is, ancestral and has a deep wisdom and is very secure, well, the ego sort of manufactures a hardened center that can almost mimic. So you're trying to put the key in the door, and you might actually, be waylaid into believing, like the fool's gold version. So people who move on this journey towards the self often get waylaid in that kind of cul-de-sac, and the gurus are also sort of responsible for a lot of that. Those gurus, I believe, are waylaid themselves along the way. Because the ego provides them lots of power, lots of cities, a lot of magical, abilities, a lot of certain charisma. You see, and people can think that's God, that's reality. It happens. So yeah, there is a very great difficulty, in observing the self.
Yeah.
But he also brought up, one thing Paul also brought up was very interesting is this. I noticed that he said that basically human beings, right now we're getting another lesson, we're getting another opportunity to see that our identification with these leaders, basically we're buying in to the delusion. We are part and party of it. We just can't keep pointing the finger and saying, oh, look, get rid of that politician, because one of these guys, is replaced by another one, equally as bad. So
exactly.
The dynamic is now to turn to a psychological understanding of that we are complicit. He made this very clear, that we are complicit in this.
Yeah.
Tolkien's Lord of the Rings, brings that out again. And what are we really identifying with? We're not, there's George Bush, but we don't know George Bush. We're identifying with the president.
Yeah.
That's a role. That's not, the man is unimportant.
Exactly.
Because that man, like Paul was saying, Henrik, is lost himself within the delirium, within the dilemma. Remember Paul was saying something about how they become possessed almost by the archetype, the negative archetype?
Sure, yeah.
Well, that's it. Their ego is lost in a negative way. Their ego dissolves, but it's in a negative way. It dissolves into the greater archetypal matrix, this vortex of power hungriness, the wrath of Khan, it's all the demagogues, all the heroes, all the maniacs are lost in this power dynamic. They've lost love. They've lost any kind of humanity because now they become disciples of power.
Yeah.
So what you're seeing there is the president, the governor, the police chief, the mayor. That's just like mother and father and teacher. It's all the roles.
Yeah, sure.
So we do it in our local family unit, and that's a creation of psychopathy. Of course, some people have less psychopathy and some have more. So if you have less, then you consider yourself normal or adjusted.
I mean,
but you're not adjusted. It's just that your psychopathy in the family is slightly less than the guy next door. So you can con yourself into believing that you got it all made and everything's happy.
Yeah.
You watch advertisements on TV that show you the perfect glowing, Folgers coffee family.
Sure. Yeah.
And if you come anywhere close to looking like that, then you've made it. If you've made it in the Hollywood way,
exactly.
what the media is showing you, then you're adjusted.
Yeah. It's a feedback loop in a way, and also, of course, the image of these persons up there, I mean, it's choreographed, it's scripted to the minute details, and I mean, one thing that seems to be very difficult for people to get through is that is the image of the man, as you say, not the man itself or the woman itself that we're looking at. I mean, people are weirded out if you say that George Bush hangs out at Skull and Bones or whatever, but I mean, we don't know anything about the person George Bush, just about as you say, the president. I mean,
he doesn't know anything about himself.
Yeah.
He has lost his health. He has become a disciple of power, and that is not a human being. He's a human in form. But, you can make an android that looks like human. You go to Madame Tussauds in London, there's plenty of waxworks there.
Sure.
They look pretty human. But the thing is that the humanity is gone. The virtue has completely disappeared. That individual. And don't forget that these individuals, no matter if it's George Bush or Margaret Thatcher, Adolf Hitler, whoever, they have the perfect right to do what they're doing. It's an extension of what Paul was saying when he says to his friends, don't, just climb into your hermitage and try to escape from the world. Be also part of the world. Realize that you have a role here.
Yeah.
That was also something he brought out. And an extension to that is that, look, these people have the perfect right. You have no right to go around politically telling them that they can't do what they have to do.
Exactly. Yeah.
He said that you're feeding the fire if you go and try to, say, I'm against that person.
Yeah.
Your againstness is still a form of energy, one that is very, very useful to the beast and to the ego.
Exactly. Yeah, that's right.
So what we have to understand is that these people are human, the human part of them, the decision-making faculty in them, their background, like in the Alan Rousseau interview with Alex Jones, he brings this up, that, look, these people basically, have made a series of choices, and they have the right to make those choices. You make your choices, and your choices are meant to be healthy and human and virtuous. That's your right. But you waving a placard or beating them over the head, it's like this song by Rush. They have one of the songs on Power Windows about this. You can't. You have no right to enforce them to say be different. They take a right to tell you what to do. With cameras in the airport and sign here and all the sorts of things that they make you go through as a business person or as an individual. But that's the very thing you don't want to do. You don't want to become like them in their place by dictating to them that they cannot be.
Yeah, sure.
What you got to do is take care of your own garden. And, that is, you cannot vote out evil. Yeah. Evil wants to make you think you can vote it out. You can't. If you waste your energy that way, it's meaningless. Jung said something incredible. He said, we have lost our superstitious fear of evil spirits and things that go bump in the night. But instead we are seized with terror of people who, possessed by demons, perpetrate the frightful deeds of darkness. That the doers of such deeds think of themselves not as possessed, but as supermen, quote-unquote, does not alter the fact that they are possessed or of their possession. So he's saying that, look, we don't fear the goblins, and the trolls. Like in Sweden, right, everybody's scared of the trolls, although they know the troll is also a positive energy. But in every culture you've got the bogeyman,
Yeah.
But see, those fears in modern man, he says, is pretty much gone. You're living in these artificial cities. You don't see those witches on broomsticks, the goblins or the elves or any of this stuff. But you got worse. You've got possessed human beings who are possessed by demonic energy, by sorcery, and they go around doing the things. And one of their biggest agendas is to make you identify with that power, just as they have identified with it. And if you're weak enough and you're impotent enough and you're totally, slowly been programmed by the television and everything else to completely be in fear, then of course you're more likely, as we've said in other shows, to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned the recent Aaron